Namo Mahavamanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Karatvise Namaha. Reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Anjalila chapter 4. Sanatana Goswami visits the Lord at Jagannath Puri. 1. This is verse 178. One who is fully satisfied in knowledge obtained and practically applied in life, who is always determined and fixed in his spiritual position, who completely controls his senses and who sees pebbles, stones and gold, on the same level is understood to be a perfect yogi. Since I am in the renounced order, my duty is to make no distinction and be equiposed. My knowledge must be equally disposed towards sandalwood pulp and dirty mud. For this reason, I cannot reject you. If I hated you, I would deviate from my occupational duty. Haridas said, My dear Lord, what you have spoken deals with external formalities. I do not accept it. My Lord, we are all fallen, but you have accepted us due to your attribute of being merciful to the fallen. This is well known all over the world. Lord Chaitanya smiled and said, Listen, Haridas and Sanatan. Now I am speaking the truth about how my mind is attached to you. My dear Haridas and Sanatana, I think of you as my little boys to be maintained by me. The maintainer never takes seriously any faults of the maintained. I always think of myself as deserving no respect, but because of affection, I always consider you to be like my little children. When a child passes stool and urine that touch the body of the mother never hates the child. On the contrary, she takes much pleasure in cleansing him. The stool and urine of the maintained child appear like sandalwood pulp to the mother. Similarly, when the foul moisture oozing from the source of Sanatan touches my body, I have no hatred for him. Haridas Thakur said, My dear sir, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead and are most merciful towards us. No one can understand what is within your deeply affectionate heart. You embraced the leper Vasudeva, whose body was fully infected by worms. You are so kind that in spite of his condition, you embraced him. By embracing him, you made his body as beautiful as that of Cupid. We cannot understand the waves of your mercy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, The body of a devotee is never material. It is considered to be transcendental, full of spiritual bliss. At the time of initiation, when a devotee fully surrenders unto the service of the Lord, Krishna accepts him to be as good as himself. When the devotee's body is thus transformed into spiritual existence, the devotee in that transcendental body renders service to the lotus feet of the Lord. The living entity, who is subjected to birth and death, attains immortality when he gives up all material activities, dedicates his life to the execution of my order, and acts according to my directions. In this way he becomes fit to enjoy the spiritual bliss derived from exchanging loving mellows with me. Krishna somehow or other manifested these itching sores on the body of Sanatana Goswami and sent him here to test me. If I hated Sanatana Goswami and had not embraced him, I would certainly have been chastised for offenses to Krishna. Sanatana Goswami is one of the associates of Krishna. There could not be any bad odor from his body. On the first day I embraced him, I smelled the aroma of Chatushama, a mixture of sandalwood pulp, camphor, agura, and musk. In fact, however, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced the body of Sanatana Goswami, by the Lord's touch alone, there was manifested a fragrance exactly like that of sandalwood pulp. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, "My dear Sanatan, do not be aggrieved, for when I embrace you, I actually get great pleasure. Stay with me at Jagannath Puri for 1 year, and after that I shall send you to Vrindavan." After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again embraced Sanatana Goswami. Thus immediately Sanatan's sores disappeared, and his entire body resembled the color of gold. Seeing the change, Haridas Thakur, greatly astonished, told the Lord, "This is your pastime. My dear Lord, you made Sanatana Goswami drink the water of Jarikanda, and you actually generated the consequent itching sores on his body. After thus causing these itching sores, you examined Sanatana Goswami. No one can understand your transcendental pastimes." After embracing both Haridas Thakur and Sanatana Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to his residence. Then Haridas Thakur and Sanatana Goswami, in great ecstatic love, began to describe the Lord's transcendental attributes. In this way, Sanatana Goswami stayed under the care of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and discussed the transcendental qualities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Haridas Thakur. After they saw the Dol Yatra festival, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Sanatana Goswami fully about what to do in Vrindavan and bade him farewell. The scene of separation that took place when Sanatana Goswami and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took leave of each other is so piteous that it cannot be described herein. Sanatana Goswami decided to go to Vrindavan by the very forest path Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had traversed. Sanatana Goswami noted from Balabhadra Bhattacharya all the villages, rivers and hills where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had performed his pastimes. Sanatana Goswami met all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and then, travelling by that same path, visited the places through which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had passed. As soon as Sanatana Goswami visited a place where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had performed his pastimes on the way, he was immediately filled with ecstatic love. In this way, Sanatana Goswami reached Vrindavan. Later, Rupa Goswami came and met him. Srila Rupa Goswami had been delayed in Bengal for a year because he was dividing his money among his relatives to situate them in their proper positions. He collected whatever money he had accumulated in Bengal and divided it among his relatives, the Brahmanas and the temples. Thus, after finishing all the tasks he had on his mind, he returned to Vrindavan fully satisfied. The brothers met at Vrindavan, where they stayed to execute the will of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami collected many revealed scriptures, and from the evidence in those scriptures they excavated all the lost sites of pilgrimage. Thus they established temples for the worship of Lord Krishna. Srila Sanatana Goswami compiled the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. From this book one can understand who is a devotee, what is the process of devotional service, and who is Krishna, the absolute truth. Srila Sanatana Goswami wrote a commentary on the 10th canto known as Dasyaman Dipani, from which we can understand the transcendental pastimes and ecstatic love of Lord Krishna. He also compiled the Hari Bhakti Vilas, from which we can understand the standard behavior of a devotee and the full extent of a Vaishnava's duty. Srila Sanatana Goswami also compiled many other books, who can enumerate them. The basic principles of all these books is to show us how to love Madan Mohan and Govindaji. Srila Rupa Goswami also wrote many books, the most famous of which is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. From that book one can understand the essence of devotional service to Krishna and the transcendental mellows one can derive from such service. Srila Rupa Goswami also compiled the book named Ujjvala Nilamani, from which one can understand to the fullest limits the loving affairs of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami also compiled two important dramas named Vidakta Madhava and Lalita Madhava, from which one can understand all the mellows derived from the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami compiled 100,000 verses, beginning with the book Dana Keli Kanmudi. In all these scriptures, he elaborately explained the transcendental mellows of the activities of Vrindavan. The son of Sri Vallabha or Anupama, Srila Rupa Goswami's younger brother, was the great learned scholar named Srila Jiva Goswami. After renouncing everything, Srila Jiva Goswami went to Vrindavan. Later he also wrote many books on devotional service and expanded the work of preaching. In particular, Srila Jiva Goswami compiled the book named Bhagavad Sandarbha or Sat Sandarbha, which is the essence of all scriptures. From this book one can obtain a conclusive understanding of devotional service and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He also compiled the book named Gopalak Champu, which is the essence of all Vedic literature. In this book he has exhibited the ecstatic loving transactions and pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. In the Sat Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami set forth the truth about transcendental love of Krishna. In this way he expanded 400,000 verses in all his books. When Jiva Goswami wanted to go to Mathura from Bengal, he requested permission from Srila Nityananda Prabhu. Because of Jiva Goswami's relationship with Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, who were greatly favored by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda Prabhu placed his feet on the head of Srila Jiva Goswami and embraced him. Lord Nityananda Prabhu ordered, "Yes, go soon to Vrindavan. That place has been awarded to your family, to your father and uncles by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and therefore you must go there immediately." By the order of Nityananda Prabhu, he went to Vrindavan and actually achieved the result of his order, for he compiled many books for a long time and preached the cult of bhakti from there. These three, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami and Jiva Goswami, are my spiritual masters, and so also is Raghunath Das Goswami. I therefore offer prayers at their lotus feet, for I am their servant. Thus I have described how the Lord again met with Sanatana Goswami. By hearing this I can understand the Lord's desire. These characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are like sugar cane that one can chew to relish transcendental juice. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, I always desiring their mercy, I Krishna Das narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Chapter 5. How Pradyumna Mishra received instructions from Ramananda Roy. I am infected by the germs of material activities, and I am suffering from the boils of envy. Therefore, falling in an ocean of humility, I take shelter of the great physician, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Mother Sachi. All glories to Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Indeed, he is the most glorious and merciful. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Advaita Prabhu, the ocean of mercy, and to all the devotees, such as Swarup Damodar Goswami, Gadadhar Pandit, Sri Rupa Goswami, and Sri Sanatan Goswami. One day, Pradyumna Mishra came to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, offering his respects and inquiring from him with great submission. My lord, he said, kindly hear me. I am a cripple-minded householder, the most fallen of men, but somehow, by my good fortune, I have received the shelter of your lotus feet, which are rarely to be seen. I wish to hear topics concerning Lord Krishna constantly. Be merciful unto me and kindly tell me something about Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I do not know about topics concerning Lord Krishna. I think that only Ramananda Roy knows, for I hear these topics from him. It is your good fortune that you are inclined to hear topics regarding Krishna. The best course for you would be to go to Ramananda Roy and hear these topics from him. I see that you have acquired a taste for hearing talks regarding Krishna. Therefore you are extremely fortunate. Not only you, but anyone who has awakened such a taste is considered most fortunate. A person who properly performs his regulative duties according to Varna and Ashram, but does not develop his dormant attachment for Krishna, or awaken his taste for hearing and chanting about Krishna, is certainly laboring fruitlessly. Pradyumna Mishra, being thus advised by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, went to the home of Ramananda Roy. There the servant of Ramananda Roy gave him a proper place to sit down. Unable to see Ramananda Roy immediately, Pradyumna Mishra inquired from the servant, who then described what Sri Ramananda Roy was doing. There are two dancing girls who are extremely beautiful. They are very youthful and they are expert in dancing and singing. Srila Ramananda Roy has taken these two girls to a solitary place in his garden, where he is teaching and directing them to dance according to the songs he has composed for his drama. Please sit here and wait for a few moments. As soon as he comes, he will execute whatever order you give him. While Pradyumna Mishra remained seated there, Ramananda Roy took the two girls to a solitary place. With his own hand, Sri Ramananda Roy massaged their bodies with oil and bathed them with water. Indeed, Ramananda Roy cleansed their entire bodies with his own hand. Although he dressed the two young girls and decorated their bodies with his own hand, he remained unchanged. Such is the mind of Srila Ramananda Roy. While touching the young girls, he was like a person touching wood or stone, for his body and mind were unaffected. Srila Ramananda Roy used to act in that way because he thought of himself in his original position as a maidservant of the gopis. Thus, although externally he appeared to be a man, internally in his original spiritual position, he considered himself a maidservant and considered the two girls gopis. The greatness of the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is exceedingly difficult to understand. Sri Ramananda Roy is unique among them all, for he showed how one can extend his ecstatic love to the extreme limit. Ramananda Roy directed the two girls how to dance and express the deep meaning of his songs through dramatic performances. He taught them how to express the symptoms of continuous natural and transitional ecstasies with the movement of their faces, their eyes, and the other parts of their bodies. Through the feminine poses and dances they were taught by Ramananda Roy, the two girls precisely exhibited all these expressions of ecstasy before Lord Jagannath. Then Ramananda Roy fed the two girls sumptuous prasadam and sent them to their homes unexposed. Every day he trained the two Devadasis how to dance, who among the small living entities, their minds always absorbed in material sense gratification, could understand the mentality of Sri Ramananda Roy. When the servant informed Ramananda Roy of Pradyumna Mishra's arrival, Ramananda Roy immediately went to the assembly room. He offered his obeisances to Pradyumna Mishra with all respect and then, with great humility, spoke as follows. Sir, you came here alone long ago, but no one informed me. Therefore I have certainly become an offender at your lotus feet. My entire home has been purified by your arrival. Kindly order me, what can I do for you? I am your servant. Pradyumna Mishra replied, I came simply to see you. Now I have purified myself by seeing your honor. Because Pradyumna Mishra saw that it was late, he did not say anything else to Ramananda Roy. Instead, he took leave of him and returned to his own home. The next day, when Pradyumna Mishra arrived in the presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord inquired, Have you heard talks about Krishna from Sri Ramananda Roy? Pradyumna Mishra thereupon described the activities of Sri Ramananda Roy. After hearing about these activities, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to speak. I am a sannyasi, he said, and I certainly consider myself renounced. But what to speak of seeing a woman? If I even hear the name of a woman, I feel changes in my mind and body. Therefore, who could remain unmoved by the sight of a woman? It is very difficult. Everyone please hear these topics about Ramananda Roy, although they are so wonderful and uncommon that they should not be spoken. The two professional dancing girls are beautiful and youthful, yet Sri Ramananda Roy personally massages their entire bodies with oil. He personally bathes and dresses them and decorates them with ornaments. In this way, he naturally sees and touches the private parts of their bodies. Nevertheless, the mind of Sri Ramananda Roy never changes, although he teaches the girls how to physically express all the transformations of ecstasy. His mind is as steady as wood or stone. Indeed, it is wonderful that even when he touches such young girls, his mind never changes. The authority for such acts is the prerogative of Ramananda Roy alone, for I can understand that his body is not material, but has been completely transformed into a spiritual entity. He alone and no one else can understand the position of his mind. But I can make a guess in terms of directions from the Shastra. The Vedic scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, gives the direct evidence in this matter. When one hears or describes with great faith the pastimes of Lord Krishna, such as his rasa dance with the gopis, the disease of lusty desires in his heart, and the agitation caused by the three modes of material nature, are immediately nullified, and he becomes sober and silent. Tasting transcendental effulgent, sweetly ecstatic love of Krishna, such a person can enjoy life 24 hours a day in the transcendental bliss of the sweetness of Krishna's pastimes. A transcendentally sober person who with faith and love continually hears from a realized soul about the activities of Lord Krishna in his rasa dance with the gopis, or one who describes such activities, can attain full transcendental devotional service at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus lusty material desires, which are the heart's disease of all materialistic persons, are for him quickly and completely vanquished. If a transcendentally situated person, following in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami, hears and speaks about the Rasa Lila dance of Krishna, and is always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, while serving the Lord day and night within his mind, what shall I say about the result? It is so spiritually exalted that it cannot be expressed in words. Such a person is an eternally liberated associate of the Lord, and his body is completely spiritualized. Although he is visible to the material eyes, he is spiritually situated, and all his activities are spiritual. By the will of Krishna, such a devotee is understood to possess a spiritual body. Srila Ramananda Roy is situated on the path of spontaneous love of Godhead. Therefore, he is in his spiritual body, and his mind is not materially affected. I also hear topics about Krishna from Ramananda Roy. If you want to hear such topics, go to him again. You can mention my name before him, saying, "He has sent me to hear about Lord Krishna from you." Go hastily while he is in the assembly room. Hearing this, Pradyumna Mishra immediately departed. Pradyumna Mishra went to Ramananda Roy, who offered him respectful obeisances and said, "Please order me, for what purpose have you come?" Pradyumna Mishra answered, "Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has sent me to hear topics about Lord Krishna from you." Hearing this, Ramananda Roy became absorbed in ecstatic love and began to speak with great transcendental pleasure. Following the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have come to hear about Krishna. This is my great fortune. How else would I get such an opportunity? Saying this, Sri Ramananda Roy took Pradyumna Mishra to a secluded place and inquired from him, "What kind of Krishna Katha do you want to hear from me?" Pradyumna Mishra replied, "Kindly tell me about the same topics you spoke about at Vidyanyakara. You are an instructor even for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What to speak of others? I am but a beggar Brahmana, and you are my maintainer. I do not know how to inquire, for I do not know what is good and what is bad. Seeing me to be poor in knowledge, kindly speak whatever is good for me by your own good will." Thereupon Ramananda Roy gradually began speaking on topics of Krishna. Thus the ocean of transcendental mellows of those topics became agitated. He began personally posing questions and then answering them with conclusive statements. When afternoon came, the topic still did not end. The speaker and the listener spoke and heard in ecstatic love. Thus they forgot their bodily consciousness. How then could they perceive the end of the day? The servant informed them, "The day has already ended." Then Ramananda Roy ended his discourses about Krishna. Ramananda Roy paid great respect to Pradyumna Mishra and bade him farewell. Pradyumna Mishra said, "I have become very satisfied." He then began to dance. After returning home, Pradyumna Mishra bathed and ate his meal. In the evening, he came to see the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In great happiness, he worshipped the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord inquired, "Have you heard topics about Krishna?" Pradyumna Mishra said, "My dear Lord, you have made me extremely obliged to you, because you have drowned me in a nectarian ocean of talks about Krishna. I cannot properly describe the discourses of Ramananda Roy, for he is not an ordinary human being. He is fully absorbed in the devotional service of the Lord." There is one other thing Ramananda Roy said to me. "Do not consider me the speaker in these talks about Krishna." Shall we end here? We read further tomorrow. Jai Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Anjalita Chapter 5, How Pradyumna Mishra Received Instructions from Ramananda Roy Ki Jai. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Srila Gurudev. Hari Raya Nama Krishna Raya Nama. Hari Raya Nama Krishna Raya Nama. Yadavaya Yadavaya Keshavaya Nama. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Gopal Govindaram Sri Madhusudana. Gopala Govindaram Sri Madhusudana. Giridhari Govinda. Sri Sila Bhakti Rakak Sila Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai Bhagavan Sila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga ki Jai Namacharya Sila Haridas Thakur ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai Sabhashara Sri Nityananda Prabhu ki Jai Sabhashara Sri Mama Prabhu ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki Jai Tulasi Maharani ki Jai Ganga Yamuna Ju ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki Jai Sri Navadvitam ki Jai Sri Mayapur ki Jai Sri Vrindavanam ki Jai Sri Purushottamadam ki Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Vastam Chattu ki Jai Samata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai Samata Vaishnava Mandala ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai Sri Ekadasi Vrata ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande